Hi everyone! I am super excited to be back for our first monthly book review, which is book review number 18, and I'm super excited to share these books with you guys. So today we have Elizabeth Catlett and Odilon Redon. I think that's how you say his name. I'll check that before I get started reviewing these. But I'm so excited to share these with you guys. Admittedly, I wasn't able to do as much research as I had wanted into these books themselves. I was able to do some, but not as much as I wanted because school has been kicking my butt. So that being said, I'm excited to share with you what I have learned, and let's just go ahead and get started. Okay guys, so today we are getting started with this book on Elizabeth Catlett. She's really fascinating, so I'm just going to get right into talking about her. She was born in 1915, born in DC. She lived till 2012, so she had a very long active life. She came from a highly educated family, though I believe her father died a few months after she was born. But yeah, she came from a family that really valued education, so she never undervalued how important that was for her development as an artist, which I thought was just really interesting, because for a woman to be encouraged in education back then, it's really extraordinary. So we're going to be talking about her. This book, I will say, it starts out with a lot of mostly words. It's definitely not image heavy, so I don't know how many more books there are on her. I will say it is a beautiful read. I haven't read it all the way through because it is jam-packed full of information, but it's really wonderful. If you're interested in reading about her, it's a wonderful resource, so definitely add it to your art book collection. But yeah, so she actually knew she wanted to be an artist from a young age, so she was kind of always studying art, and she went and she studied art at Howard University, and she was a student of Lois Mailou Jones, who, if you don't know her work, just look it up. She's amazing as well. But Lois Mailou Jones encouraged her to pursue design, but she ended up pursuing painting instead, and for that she ended up working with James Porter, another very well-known artist. So it was really amazing to see that, and to just kind of see her pursue. She pursued all the way up to a graduate degree, and ultimately I don't believe she was able to study sculpture until her graduate degree. I believe in college she mostly studied drawing and painting and printmaking. And as you can see, printmaking, which is a large focus of this body of the images in this book, was a large part of her work. But another interesting tidbit about her, she was a very politically and socially engaged artist. So especially in her, really in all her work, it's a recurring theme. She was an activist artist, she might call her now, but she's just, it really only adds to the beauty of her work. Because she was able to say something without it being maybe so literal, but also being very clear. So I'm very intrigued by her work. So it reminds me a lot of Kate Kowitz, because she was also a very socially and politically engaged artist. Sorry, I'm bringing the book up a little high. But yeah, also just her commitment to it. To go on more about her, she ended up moving to Mexico in 1946, I believe. Yes, 1946, pretty sure. Okay, sorry about that. She ended up marrying a Mexican artist and raising a family in Mexico. I believe she lived there for 50 years, eventually becoming a citizen of Mexico in 1962. She also taught sculpture at a university in Mexico. I know I have the university name written down somewhere, but unfortunately I don't think I could pronounce it without offending many people, so I am just gonna not do that, but I will type it out in the description. Yeah, she was really remarkable. Another interesting tidbit just about her working method. When she was in college, she learned how to create dynamic symmetry, and making any image of a figure symmetrical is obviously distorting it, because humans aren't symmetrical. So she actually really valued that that distortion, and she would carefully observe and strive for naturalism, and then use principles of dynamic symmetry to really push the distortion and push the distortion for expressive emphasis, is what I believe what I read. So yeah, so now we're just in notes, but like I said, you'll see it was obviously not as many prints and images in this book, but beautifully written. I do just recommend it if you're just interested in learning about another amazing artist, and you at least still can see some of her work in it. So yeah, so that's that one. Okay, so now we're going to look at this book on Odilon Redon, which according to the video I watched where the guy said his name quickly, it sounded about the same, so pretty sure that is how you say his name. So the beginning of this book just starts with some essays, and I did not read both of them all the way through, but I did, it's actually 3 of them, one's a really short essay, but I did skim them and I got some interesting little information from there. I will say the reason they weren't as interesting to me, these essays, because it was less of a biographical, continuing essay on Redon. It was more of an analysis of his work, and I tend to be a little bit less interested in hearing what other people have to say on an artist's work. But one thing that did intrigue me about these essays, they shared a lot of quotes from Redon himself, so that was pretty interesting, and that was worth reading. So, for sure. So the first thing that this book actually starts out is telling a story of from his childhood, of how his father would encourage him to go outside and look at the clouds and see all the wondrous visions and amazing shapes that they would make, and just really admire that. And he carried that with him for the rest of his life and throughout his work. So I thought that was interesting insight into Redon. A couple of interesting tidbits. He was very fond of the works of Corot. Definitely saw Corot as a true artist. And he, the other interesting thing, he wrote the elements that he believed were essential for a true work of art. And he said that those were reality, tradition, and personal invention. So I thought that was pretty cool. There is a really fascinating quote that I would love to share with you guys. So I wrote it on and taped it to my easel so I wouldn't forget it. So bear with me as I struggle through it. Redon writes, "It is only after making an effort of will to produce a meticulous depiction of a blade of grass, a stone, a branch, a bit of old wall, that I feel almost tormented by the need to create something imaginary. External nature, thus assimilated and measured, becomes by transformation my source, my ferment. To the moment following such exercises, I owe my best works." And that's into the quote, and I thought that was such a beautiful quote and really interesting. So I'm glad I got through it. Admittedly, this is not my first time trying to read it on camera, so third time's the charm. But yeah, there's some other interesting quotes that from Redon that I will make sure to include in the description, because I just thought they were really interesting. Another interesting thing that I'll share about his charcoal drawings was that the conservator Harriet Stratus found that Redon would draw with charcoal, then use fixative, and then draw again, and fix again, and so on. So he repeated that practice a lot, which is interesting because his work looks very ethereal, but it was definitely a process that he would use to get it to appear that way. So I thought that was interesting for anyone interested in his charcoal technique. But yeah, I'm really excited. I was really excited to find this book because I tried finding one online, and it wasn't until I went in person I was able to judge which one would really be the best. Because Redon is, I think, an artist that a lot of people have really distinct opinions on. So some people were like, "There's no good colors" and things like that. So yeah, so then it just ends with like almost like the chronology and the list of plates. So that is that one. So yeah, so there you go. I hope you enjoyed that book review. Glad to be back at it. Glad to be sharing books with you guys again. So definitely one thing I want to bring up for those of you that have made it to the end is let me know in the comments if you'd be interested in me reviewing some books that are more books like, let's say, the Art Spirit or Harold Speed's books, the ones that, are read books, not look through. And if you'd like me to go through and discuss some of the content and maybe some of the stuff that I found most useful for them, and just a good overall attitude to have when reading books like that. So if you'd be interested in that, let me know. And otherwise, I will see you next month for our next monthly book review video. So see you then.